Hey y'all, I'm so excited to jump into our topic today. We're going to talk all about how to know which exercises to avoid after you've had a baby. If this is a topic that you want to know a little bit more about, especially about core and pelvic floor health, I want to invite you to my free upcoming webinar. It's going to be on Friday, September 27th, and it is going to be all about 3 things that you can start doing right away to naturally improve the strength of your core and your pelvic floor. If you're not available to watch it live, it's okay. You'll have access to the recording. And if you are watching this video after September 27th, then that recording will still be available. So you can find the link to sign up for that in the description. But let's get into it. Okay, the first thing that I think it's important to know is that there's not going to be a specific list of exercises that you need to stay away from postpartum or stay away from once you've had a baby. What it really is about is knowing and feeling confident in monitoring those healing core muscles, healing abdominal wall, and your healing pelvic floor muscles to know what exercises and activities those muscles can handle correctly and which ones you are having to compensate or do in a weird compensatory pattern in order to be able to do that thing, whether it's that exercise or lift that thing or do that workout class, whatever that is. And things change really, really rapidly postpartum, especially in that first year postpartum. Healing timelines are different for everybody. Everybody's body is different. Everybody's pregnancy was different. Everybody's labor and delivery was different. So there is no from this time to this time, you should only be doing these exercises. And from this time to this time, you should only be doing these exercises. What it's more about is monitoring your own body so that you feel empowered and you have that self-accountability to be able to progress exercises in the way that your body is ready for and not in the way that your body isn't ready for. The other thing I want to point out before we jump all the way into it is that what we're really talking about is especially in that year window postpartum. So a lot of people, especially what I find with patients, is that they hit that 6-month point and they're like, okay, I'm good, I'm ready to go. But what we know about healing tissues and just timeline of healing, which we do not get to change. We can't change it. We can interrupt it, but we can't really speed it up. What we know about healing tissue timeline is that we are still healing and remodeling the changes that happen to your body during pregnancy and labor and delivery for up to a year, even up to 18 months postpartum. So even though it feels like this is what we're talking about is really early postpartum, this could also apply up to that 18-month mark or even longer if you're someone who took a really long time off of exercise postpartum. Now you're 3-4 years postpartum and you're like, I really need to get back to exercising. I don't know where to start. I don't know what I can do and what I can't do without hurting myself. All of this still applies. We need to talk about past those first few healing months of postpartum and what we're looking for. So at this point, we're probably working back into more traditional exercises, what workouts might look like for you, whatever that is. And now we're starting to look for the difference between, did my core muscles, my pelvic floor muscles, and all of my stabilizers, did those support me correctly during that activity, or did I have to compensate with other muscles? And that compensation pattern that we're going to talk about is where we get a disruption of healing. So it's where we can get weird pressure management coming from the use of muscles that we shouldn't really be using for stability or to support an activity. That poor pressure management, it was what can cause a delay in healing or even cause injury or dysfunction in our pelvic floor or in our abdominal wall. So I'm going to demonstrate this here in a little bit, so don't get too caught up in like, what the heck is she talking about? But what we're really looking for is the difference between when I did that activity, when I lifted that weight, when I did that exercise, whatever it is, did I brace myself from the bottom up? Did I feel my support starting from the bottom and working its way up? And that means that we used pelvic floor in our inner core muscles. Or did I feel myself bearing down or getting my support coming from the top down? And that top down means that we felt those big outer core muscles, that big 6-pack muscle, that big outer oblique, or those muscles that are right around your rib cage, really pull down and almost do like a crunch motion. And oh shoot, when I did that amount of weight, or when I did that push up, or when I did whatever it was, I felt like those muscles had to come in a lot more, and I did a bear down instead of a brace from the bottom up. As soon as we learn what that feels like and what it looks like in our core, then we get the green light to try stuff, because we can try it and say, ooh, I compensated when I did that thing, so I either need to drop the weight that I was using, do less reps because I did it well at first, but then it started to fall apart, or I need to do a regression. So if we were trying a push-up, can we do push-up on our knees? Can we do an elevated push-up like on the workout bench? If we were using a barbell, maybe we need to use some dumbbells first to really get the stabilization pattern down. Whatever it is, it doesn't mean that you have to stop doing the thing. It just might mean that we have to alter how you're doing the thing, because it's all about whatever you're doing, as long as you can do it with the correct support and the right bracing pattern, then we're good to go. And if you had to compensate, then we need to change something or back off for now. Also, as we're getting back into regular workouts and regular exercises, we're also still looking for that feeling of heaviness or pressure down into pelvic floor. So that's not just for early postpartum. We're maybe watching it a little bit closer in early postpartum, but all throughout, anytime we feel heaviness, pressure, a weight in our pelvic floor, then that's a sign that we are not bracing correctly, and the activity that we're doing, we don't have the strength from the correct muscles to do that thing well without hurting ourselves or causing dysfunction. And then also a big sign that most women tend to blow right past, because we get so used to being told that this just happens if you've had babies, but that's not true, is a feeling of urinary urgency. So like you start working out and you're like, every time I start working out, I have to go pee, even though I just peed, even though I just emptied my bladder. Or a feeling that you might almost pee your pants, or actually having incontinence while you're doing the thing. If we have any of those signs, then it probably means that we're doing something incorrectly. We're mismanaging pressure. We're not using the right support muscles, and we need to change what we're doing so that we can build back up and use the right muscles for what you're doing or what you're wanting to do for exercise. Okay, so what is it going to look like if we are doing a brace or using the correct muscles to support the activity from the bottom up, and what's it going to look like if we use the wrong muscles and we do a top down? Whenever we do it from the bottom up, you're going to feel like no matter where your stomach started, we're going to see a change in our abdominal wall at rest, that when we brace, everything moves towards our spine. We have a really good hug and a lift, and we're not going to see our belly button take a dive down or get pushed out. Where I really want you to watch, I'm going to show this to you in a minute, so don't get too confused, but where I want you to watch also is right between your pelvic bones, that really, really lower abdominal wall that's like right around your pubic bone. We want to make sure that is coming with the rest of your stomach. So if from the belly button up squeezes and comes in, that's great, but what a lot of women leave behind, especially postpartum, is that lower core, and that's the part that we want to make sure is coming with when we use our pelvic floor appropriately too. So we want to see that whole abdominal wall come in together. Versus when we do a bear down, or we use those upper abdominal muscles, or just rely on those outer abdominal muscles to give us support without the inner ones supporting us as well, we're going to see a big bulge out of our stomach. Okay, so during pregnancy, we call it coning, because we have that abdominal wall separation and that space between our ab muscles. And then when pressure gets pushed out into it, we see it come to a point. That's that pregnancy coning. If you're early on postpartum, you might still see that coning if you're doing things incorrectly, because we might not have an abdominal wall that's all the way back together yet, and that's okay. If not, we call it doming, where you just kind of see the stomach muscles we call it like a bread loaf appearance, where it's like everything just pushes out and becomes one big round blob. I'm going to show it to you on my core, I promise, so don't get too confused by that. But that's what we're watching for. And I just want to point out that as you're getting back into exercises, I have 2 tips. One is to either set up your iPhone to record yourself so that you can see what your stomach is doing, or watch yourself in a mirror. Don't try to look down at your own stomach while you're doing an exercise, because as soon as you look down, your whole body follows your eyes. That's just like rule of thumb when you're working out. So if you look down, you're more likely to bear down for the exercise instead of do it from the bottom up, like we want to learn and reteach our body to do. So either get where you can see what your stomach is doing in the mirror, or just set your phone up so that you can record what your stomach is doing and then watch it afterwards and change what you need to change. The next thing that I want to point out is that we aren't just talking about core exercises here. So I think that a lot of people get caught up in, because I'm watching for what my core is supposed to be doing, then this must only apply to core exercises. But in my experience of working with women during pregnancy and during postpartum, where they're missing it, or where they're starting to feel symptoms, or where they're really causing dysfunction and problems, is not happening in core exercises. It's happening more in upper body and lower body exercises. So especially postpartum, but really anytime, like literally in any time in life and in your fitness and health journey, it's not about, are your legs strong enough to do that lift? Are your arms strong enough to move that weight or use that weight? It's, can your arms and your legs do that while also getting support from your core in the correct way? So is your core strong enough to do that correctly? Is your pelvic floor strong enough to do that correctly? And a lot of times I can say from personal experience that my limiting factor in something like a back squat, anything that has a load from a barbell, for me, my core is my limiting factor. My legs could absolutely do the lift. They're strong enough to, but my core, I'm starting to have to get a bear down to get out of the hole. And I feel myself and I see myself lose my inner core control. So therefore I have to back off of the weight and see if I can work up to a weight that my core can handle it. And sometimes that's the limiting factor. And when we're postpartum, after we've had babies, that is when we really, really, really have to respect that as the limiting factor and accept it and work with it and work through it, so that we are protecting our bodies and we're protecting our healing tissues. Okay, I am going to show you on my core what it looks like when I'm doing a bicep curl. If that weight is too heavy for me, I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's not about how strong my bicep is. It is how strong is my core and can I brace correctly for the weight that I'm using. So I'm about to stand up and all you're going to see is my stomach so that I can really drive the point home. Okay, so I have this 20-pound dumbbell here, and I want you to see where my stomach starts, right? This is just my stomach or my abdominal wall at rest. When I curl this weight, if it's not too heavy for me, then you're gonna see this bottom up bracing pattern coming from my core, right? So when I do it, that's really good core control, and as long as my bicep can handle it and this looks good, I could keep doing that exercise. However, if this weight was too heavy for me and I tried to curl it and had to really tap in and do a bear down, see that push out? See how I'm losing all of that control down here? Here's my starting, and then I have to bear down to get that weight up. That is what we're watching for no matter what the exercise is. And so what I really, really want you to take away from this is that there is no one right answer of exercises that you should or shouldn't do at a certain period of postpartum or after having your baby. What is most important and also most empowering is learning how to identify what your body is doing and what it's not doing well, what is correct, what feels correct, and what is incorrect, so that you have that empowerment to try things and to get back into your regular exercise and your regular workouts without fear of hurting yourself or delaying your healing. If you're realizing that your core and your pelvic floor aren't quite keeping up with you in the exercises and the activities that you're doing, or if you're postpartum and you've been avoiding going back to exercise because you're not really sure what's safe and what's not safe, I want to invite you to my free webinar. The live webinar is going to take place on September 27th. When you register, if you're not able to make it live, that's okay. You'll have access to the recording. The topic of that webinar is 3 things that you can start doing right away to naturally increase the strength of your core and your pelvic floor. My promise to you with that webinar is that it is going to be very beneficial, very tangible steps that you can take right away and start implementing to feel a change and a difference in your core and pelvic floor. And if you are watching this after September 27th, after that live one has launched, you will also have access to the replay always. So you can sign up for that. Either way, the link that you need is going to be in the description of this video at the very top of the description. That live webinar is also the kickoff to the launch week of my new program. That program is called Conquer Core Foundations, and it is a 12-week educational and progressive workout program that is designed to help you build the foundational strength you need for a core and a pelvic floor that is supporting you in all of your activities. So if that's something you're interested in, you can also find more information about that program in the description of this video. But the best place to start is going to be that webinar. So make sure you check out the webinar. Whenever you participate in that webinar, it also gives you access to a discount on the Core Foundations course and an extra bonus that you cannot find anywhere else. That bonus is not included with the Core Foundations program anywhere else other than through that webinar. So make sure you check out those links, and I will see y'all next week. Bye.